And now it's
5:45.
Tim.
It's all right.
What happened?
Okay, you're on.
Okay. Hey, you're live. So many tech issues, too few techies. Welcome, everyone. This is New York Writers Workshop at Undlerland Gallery. Thank you all so much for coming out. We have a wonderful crowd tonight. Tonight we're not lying. It's so good to hear all the laughter and see the seats. Yeah, we never take pictures of the audience because there's never any audience. So tonight you might be
No.
First off, I always want to thank our hosts, Maxim and Hannah Salyer, who run this operation, who give us this space, and who keep this charming venue available to us. So we're thrilled to be here. We love them. They do great work. New York Writers Workshop is a not-for-profit organization, and I think Undlerland Gallery appreciates the realities of nonprofits. So thank you guys so much. This is our... I'm not certain if this is our first full year here, or if we actually started in 22, but this is the end of this year. This is our final event for 2023. We'll take a short break and reconvene, I think, on Saturdays in 2024. I'm Tim Tomlinson, co-founder of the organization and director of New York Writers Workshop. Yeah. What do I need to tell you tonight? So tonight we feature three fantastic writers, and they will read in this order. We have Ruth Danon, the poet, Omar Musa, poet, visual artist, novelist, hip-hop recording artist, and Beth Raymer, author of two exquisite books, actually three, one fiction, the other non. They're going to read in that order. We're live streaming on Facebook, so please say hello when you check in. Tell us where you're coming in from. Visit our website, NewYorkWritersWorkshop.com/Weebly, or Weebly's in there somewhere. Most important thing on that website is the donate button. This is the giving season. And what else? Please follow us on Facebook and on Instagram. Tonight is such a great lineup. I never know what to say about how fucked up the world is.
That's a good start.
We started, I read a poem by Adrienne Rich to try to address the gravity of the world situation. Tonight, I don't have a poem. It's Tom Waits' birthday. So we'll stay in the celebration mode. Maybe later on, if I have enough Spike Seltzer, I'll do an impression. But, even in times like this, it just occurs to me that the thing that really keeps me going is this kind of a community event. This is really where the bright lights shine, and I'm just so happy to see all of you here and to do this once again. Okay. So tonight we're going to start with Ruth Danon. Ruth is the author of 4 books of poetry. Turn Up the Heat. Yeah, Turn Up the Heat.
Yeah.
Word Has It. Limitless Tiny Boat. And Triangulation from a Known Point. Her book of literary criticism, Work in the English Novel, was reissued by Routledge in 2020. Her work has been published widely in the U.S. and abroad in publications such as To Horatio, The Parish Review, Tupelo Quarterly, Barrow Street, Universal, Fence, and Best American Poetry 2002. Ruth lives in Beacon, New York. She teaches privately and with New York Writers Workshop. She's one of our most stalwart professors. She's a great, great teacher. For 23 years, she taught creative writing at the NYWW School of Professional Studies. She's presently working on organizing the first Beacon Lit Fest in June of 2023.
Second.
The second. Wow, the second. Way behind the times. But we're so happy to have Ruth with us. She's read with us before, but never here. This is her debut, so come on up.
out logistically what to do with my water. Yeah, I'll put it there. Can you hear me?
Not yet.
Hearable?
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe here,
Close.
so you can, there.
Yeah, I'm hearable. Okay. All right, I don't know if I know these or not. All right, so first of all, thank you all for being here. Thank you, Tim and Deedle, for inviting me. Thank you to Max and Hannah for having this wonderful space. This is a very special reading for me tonight. For one thing, 4 people in my current
Yeah.
writing, teaching life are here, which is just thrilling. Because there's no scarier audience than the people you teach. Oh, I'm scared. The other thing is, this is the book, which I covered with Post-its. And then I was planning the reading, I put little Post-its in it. And then I realized that I hated flipping pages. And I feel like I do it badly, and it makes me nervous. So then I put everything on printed pages. So, but I did write the book. I did. For some reason, I have 2 copies of my set list. All right. There are a couple of things I need to tell you about this book. First of all, it wouldn't exist without New York Writers Workshop, because I went to Sardinia at the instigation of Tim and Deedle, who said, you must go, you must go. So I did. And I wrote all this stuff, and I didn't think it was anything. And then it turned out to form the spine of this book. So I'm grateful to New York Writers Workshop, not only for employing me, but also for giving me Sardinia, which is the spine of the book. So I thought that today I would read largely poems that have to do with Sardinia, or in part Sardinia. The book itself takes place before, during, and after the pandemic. I mean, the major part of the pandemic. We're all still wearing masks, so it's clearly not over, but it's better than it was. There are a couple of other things you need to know. One is that I hate the cold. I mean, I really hate the cold. This is not a small thing, it's a very large thing. There are some characters in the book, historical characters actually. One is St. Anthony of the Desert, who is also known as St. Anthony of Egypt, and he is the patron saint of hermits, and he is said to have brought fire into the desert or into the world. So I'm very grateful to St. Anthony for heat. The other figure in the book is Giordano Bruno, whom you may know was a 16th century heretic and martyr, and he was burned at the stake in 1600 because of many things that he believed, including that not only did the earth revolve around the sun, as opposed to the sun revolving around the earth, but he also believed that there were an infinite number of suns and an infinite number of earths. And so he was very contemporary. The third figure, also a male, seems odd, but all male, is the husband, or my husband, but I just call him the husband. And he represents a kind of domesticity and a kind of tangle of long marriage. And those are the figures you need to know. I don't think there's anything else. Some of the scenes some of the material happens in Sardinia. Most of what I read tonight will deal with that. And the other part is written in the Hudson Valley. So those two are the landscapes that you will meet. I don't think I need to say anything else. So without further ado, as they say, I will read. You can hear me all right. If for some reason my voice falls away, flap your hand in the air. I'd appreciate it. Thank you. The temptation. What ill-gotten gains will come from what I imagine or conjure? Poker-faced, I, holding no cards, reproach only myself for false premises. In this desert, I give up longing. I come with claw hand and cloven feet. In this desert, the false and the true the angel and devil stand equal. It remains to be seen how tall my tales will get. I thought the book was going to be about gambling. It's not about gambling, but there is gambling in it. And in this poem, you need to know that Galtali and Orosei are two towns in Sardinia. The gamble. If you find me face flat down on the road between Galtali and Orosei, do not assume I require prayer or pity. Know that at the feast of St. Anthony, I gambled on the wrong saint. I was betting on the saint of beautiful lost things from Padua, when I should have known that it was the hermit from the Egyptian desert who tamed the devil with stick and pig that I should have named my own. All night fires insist and burn. White ash covers the ground. Where there was sun, no shadow. And when they stripped cork from the bottom of the tree, trust it, the bark grows back. It's really true. There's all these trees with the bottom sort of stripped bare. And I was told, don't worry about it, it's okay. The tree will be fine. So, as this poem mentions, there's a bonfire, or many bonfires in Sardinia at the Feast of St. Anthony. And these bonfires are enormous. I mean, the mound is taller than a house. And there's a tree that comes out of it that's taller than the mound. And when I saw this, it made me immediately think of Giordano Bruno's statue in the Campo de' Fiori in Rome. And so there are a number of poems that come out of that image, and this is one of them, called St. Anthony's Fire. I should say, by the way, that I'm not reading these poems necessarily in the order in which they appear in the book. I tried to compose the evening as an evening. So this one comes later in the book. St. Anthony's Fire. Rosemary, cork, oak myrtle, sweet eucalyptus, pine branches upon fir branches, a mound piled taller than I am, taller than the house I live in, and from the center one living tree, bare of branches, proud as Giordano Bruno in the Campo dei Fiori, a man tall and cowled. They burned him for thinking too much of infinite earths, every star a sun. In Galtali, in the center of town, they light the fire slowly. It starts to burn, one side bright, one side shadow, always, and in all things, one side bright and one side shadow. And now I must go, they say, 3 times around the fire, until I sweat like the devil in the heat, until I taste the first fist of hot ash in my bitten mouth. So now you have met Bruno, you have met Anthony, it's now time to meet the husband. The ongoing persists, even though there is no way to count all the stars in the sky. Let's read them as metonymic of the internal universe. That's how it is with marriage. No way to count the ways it succeeds, fails, succeeds, remains tentative and stubbornly strong, even after so much time. It's our own universe, after all, the only one there is, the one we made. We tell the cats when they wish to venture into the hallway, the whole world is here. There's nothing out there at all. We stay flat out on our flat earth. We know that beyond our borders, there be dragons. Excellent. Here we are. Oh, I should mention that in the book, there are frequent references to cats.
Oh, yeah.
Any sensible book refers to cats. So in the Hudson Valley, when I first moved there in 2017, I noticed that there were sheep on the hillside. And then when I went to Sardinia, I noticed there were sheep on the hillside. This poem involves sheep. It's not about sheep,
Yeah.
but it involves sheep. The word about is very, very dangerous. Pastoral. Round stones could be sheep. Round sheep could be stones. Once in a while, the stones move. Sheep, or the slow movement of stones sliding over silt after we stopped looking. So I have to tell you this, I was putting the reading together and something came onto my computer and it was a review of the book. And the review began with that poem. So I was really thrilled. What a synchronicity here. This is great. This next poem is called Trouble. In the kitchen, I discovered desire. That is to say, I discover a lack of what I want. Tonight, scallions and curry. I have shallots and onions, some red and some yellow, and many other items I favor whether I need them or not. There's an ice storm in the valley tonight, and Texas, an energy-producing state, as they say, is trapped in ice and experiencing a grave lack of power. The black ice in our town produces great sadness in my husband because he desires snow falling. He experiences an immediate and immense lack of snow. His is a simple desire and a huge emptiness. So St. Anthony gets ready to go into the desert to do battle with the devil. St. Anthony prepares for the desert. How long will I wait before someone knocks at my door? And when I open that rusty door, what will it take to break with the past? Must I cover my face and my swollen eyes with a sullen cloth? When I meet the devil in his dirty cave, will I spit or will I chew? So there's a whole series of poems that were written during the pandemic. And what I did in the book was break them up. So they're no longer a clump, they're all the way through. This is one of them. Exile. Noise of the river, noise of speech. Student of quiet or riot, student of blush and rogue streaks in the sky. In the morning, signal disaster and unwarranted hunger. Warnings on walls, my name repeated under breath. Fool, fool, fool. St. Anthony's speechless. No vernacular in the icy desert. No pretty speech at the mouth of a cave where the devil hoards fire. The devil is a fool, cannot tell the difference between a stick and a snake or a pig and a poke. When Anthony's pig breaches a cave, he runs wild. He grunts and raises hell and hell. And so Anthony, holding a stick, hiding its fire, calms the pig, comes out of the cave, brings heat to the world. I'm going to have a sip of water. Are you with me? No good, it had bubbles. Okay. Testament. Gray, crowding white, we call sky on snow. Short days and the dogs howl without purpose. No malice in the howling. Human voices harder to hear. Broken codes. Snow in gutters. Moon half full. I asked for ice in water. I asked for my own kind of cold. Yes, I was wanting my own messy future. Shift. Midday, walk with a friend at river's edge. Ice floes still floating, water flowing, mud season, mad season, trying out good cheer, flat ground, fat chance. The train, ghost of another life, heads north. A flock of birds takes to the air, moving towards the water. If I could tell you what happens next, I would. Okay, so back to Sardinia. It was really cold in Sardinia. I mean, it was really cold. My room had no heat, it had no light. It was hideous. I gave Tim a really hard time about this. But one day, there was a trip on a bus. And it was glorious because the bus was so cozy and warm. And I could have stayed on that bus for my whole life. It was so wonderful. And one of the things we did with the bus was we saw ruins from the, like the Bronze Age. They're really old. And they're amazing. And so this poem came out of that. The ruins. Although, this is an aside, but one of the things that's really interesting to me is that Antonio Gramsci came from Sardinia. He was an important anti-fascist. And when I think about him, and I think about what I'm going to talk about in this poem, I think that there must be this long thread of socialist thought in Sardinia that goes way, way back. The ruins. Clearly I'm approving of this. The ruins. Pools of water over pitted stones near Gilarza, where I came late to the moment of revelation. The woman teaching said, a grave, and all were once alike in the huge pit, men and women and children in the same place. Even dogs were buried together until invaders, men, built towers with circular stairs I did not climb. And after the towers, it was everyone interred alone in death. Walking away, I saw coming towards me ewes and their lambs in the rare grass, bells at their necks, ringing a new story. Romance. Witness the plausible array of pillows thrown off the bed. Consider your good fortune in not being discarded. Witness the seemingly perpetual bloom of the jonquils, another plausible display. Oh la, spring in the mountains. I wandered lonely as a, you fill in the rest any way you like. I have yet to be persuaded. Now that my hair is white, everybody likes me. That kind of like is not like some other kind of like. Maybe, maybe not. I don't trust words as much as I love them. I trust instead the one who, unasked, cleaned out my refrigerator. People have been commenting lately on the humor in my work. And I think of myself as profoundly depressing. Gambles. Lately I turn on all the lights in the house, betting on illumination, to be literal. Light leads the way from one room to the next. Eyes adjust to dim light. Long tunnel, that cliche, the light at the end, etc. Pretty far off. The temerity of small animals, their tenacity and mine. What I gain or lose, a bet, time will tell. Another cliche. I study new lines in my forehead. The punchline of the joke. Buy the lottery ticket. I was supposed to do that. Instead, I consider the unmade bed and the luxury of disorder, the tuft of cotton at the edge of the rug, always at the edge of something. When I skip over the border, my number comes up. Now what's off the edge of the page causes a change of direction. Can I say it? Out I went with the bathwater. That primal disaster. All bets off. Cause and effect. An abject relationship to this fact. Never to have been wanted. Pathos. The clumsily written headline in the local paper. 2 children hit by a car eating ice cream. The fact, the child's foot was caught under the wheel of the car. Another fact, this time nobody died. Nonetheless, it's safe to bet that there's always a need for one form of extrication or another. Would you have liked me better if I had gambled nothing? I'm going to close with the last poem in the book. Not usually the poem I close with, but for this grouping it's the So, verdict. All your precious beauty does no good in the court of dismay, where betrayal reveals itself for what it is. The way you notice the thread you pulled from your new sweater, or the hole in the toe of the sock of your right foot. Better now to notice that the room is cold. Better to turn on the light, as if the light could magically become heat. And it does when you plug in the small radiator that signals its service, when you float bright red symbols of flame across its surface. You make do with what you have and who you are. The light outside the courtroom surprises you. Thank you so very much. Max for turning up the heat. I really
I'm a little disappointed that Ruth didn't read I enter my freezing room in Sardinia and think of Tim. Thank you, Ruth. That was fantastic. Having been in Sardinia on this trip, it really came back to me through so many different levels. So thank you so much for the poems and the recollections. All right, so next we have Omar Musa. This is a rare privilege, everyone, and especially for New York Writers Workshop. I'll tell you a little bit about Omar and how I met him. So Omar is a Bornean Australian author, visual artist, and poet from Queanbeyan, Australia. And I think Queanbeyan is an Aboriginal word for clear waters. He has released 4 poetry books, including the most recent Killer Nova, 4 hip-hop records, and he's received a standing ovation at TEDx Sydney at the Sydney Opera House. Wow. His debut novel, Here Come the Dogs, was long listed for the International Dublin Literary Award and the Miles Franklin Award, and he was named one of Sydney Morning Herald's Young Novelists of the Year in 2015. His one-man play, Since Ali Died, won Best Cabaret Show at the Sydney Theatre Awards in 2018. He has had several solo exhibitions of his woodcut prints. I just want to say, I didn't mention this earlier, but Ruth has books to sell on the back table. Omar has some merch on the back table. And I think Beth hopefully brought some books as well. So please, when we finish the reading, we'll ask the writers to come up, sit down, and do some Q&A, maybe 15 minutes of that, and then we'll have time to schmooze and purchase. I met Omar through Here Come the Dogs. I found this book on the bookshelves in Australia, and I've always wanted to write a book myself that had dogs in the title, so I thought, okay, this guy must be cool. And then I started asking around, and people knew him. And Omar, can I delay 1 second and just tell a funny story, right? So I had Omar come into NYU, and he did a reading with us at NYU in the bookstore. And my mother was sitting in the front row. And Mom doesn't know too much about much, but what she knows really sticks with her, and she loves Russell Crowe. So she's in the front of the room, listening and laughing with Omar. And she raises her hand at the Q&A, and she says, I wonder if you've ever met Russell Crowe. So I go, Mom! And he had. So that was the amazing thing. Now I just shut my mouth when my mother comes to the room. I don't let her often. Omar and Musa, come on up.
Yeah.
Yeah, Russell Crowe threw me my 30th birthday party.
Yeah,
so that's,
amazing.
Yeah, if I had another 20 minutes after this, I'll be able to tell you the whole yarn. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm going to try and warm you up a little bit with some ocean poems because, yeah, so this is a set dedicated to my friend Tim. Great to reconnect. I know he's an ocean lover, a keen scuba diver. So I'm going to cast away all my normal fare about combustible race relations in Australia and Australian racism and Islamophobia and whatnot. So you can imagine the types of things I might have to say on those topics. And instead I'm going to go into my ancestral oceans in Southeast Asia, into the Sulu Sea, in between Borneo, the island that my father comes from, and the southern Philippines. And so this poem, it's called The Offering, and it's based on a style of dance called the Pangale dance from southern Philippines, eastern Borneo. Bodies and water. Bodies of water. 7,000 bodies in water. Maintain posture. Bend forward in reverence, torsos to sun, shoulders cliffs and eyes downcast. Demure, no. Playful, forever. Palm leaves flutter flit like lashes. Somatic temples conceived from volcanic ash. This movement mirrors migratory birds, and the thin topaz horizon is dimming now. Tonight, maintain posture. The faster the beat, the slower the movement. Twist wrists inward and outward with winds and tides. Form hands from sand and rock. Your promontories and bays will hold bones, hold docks, hold call to prayer. Hold steady the torch that blades across the face of the deep. Waves hip toss beneath woven sheets, purple and garnet, mulberry and mangosteen peel. In this dying light, your sarong is a sail. Now tie it to an upright oar and speak life into the vessel. Run your hands along the blood-spilt grain, worn by souls, salt-worn, worn of plagues, dying kisses and childbirth. For what it's worth, we have been here many times already. You know it well already. The jubilant fears, distilled tears now. Brass fingernails tremble to read ripples. Read tides, read throat, read nipples, read steaming broth with salted fish and butterfly tongue. Vocabulary palls, then shreds in vapor. Think Sanskrit, think dances, choreographed in collaboration with the waves and the stars. Now melt the stars down to a single golden ingot. Wear it on a chain of islands forevermore. It will illuminate your faces, the privileged, the hateful, the hurtful, the stateless. The refuse of the world has atomized here. My ancestral seas a great jar of plastic. A great jar of plastic rising, rising, rising like blood pressure in the giant's corrupted body. You see, Duterte is killing addicts in the street, and the new Malaysia is the same as the old, yet still. Fish scales turn alabaster on the belly of the moon. We remain seraphim with fishermen's hands. Capitalist Christians, Muslim animists, dried blood between thumb and forefinger configured together to point the way forward, for we are all trilingual, not so deep down. Speak God, speak flesh, speak ocean, speak up, marshal your arts, pivot, twist, bend back like a bow, stay flexible as a borderline and stay controlled, because if your limbs in patterns seamlessly unfold, then the dance The dance will never die. So maintain posture. The faster the beat, the slower the movement. We make an offering tonight to you. This here is our offering. Thank you. You can clap it back. So I'm going to play off Ruth a little bit and read a Sardinia-related poem.
Wow.
Sea Silk. Let's see how it goes. I never really read this one out loud. The last woman in the world who knows how to spin sea silk lives in Sardinia. Byssus mussels, 4 fish long, cling to the seabed by beard. Secreted threads of silken saliva, it takes 100 dives for 30 grams. Harvest it, preen it, soak it in a secret brew of spices. The result is so fine, a pair of gloves can be folded up to fit into half a walnut shell. The woman sings into the spices, and the cloth then illumes like gold. Plastic and shell petrol are choking the mussels to death, these mollusks spoken of in the Bible, described by ancient Chinese wayfarers. Dive deep, for the song of the ocean, says the woman. It cannot be bought, only gifted. In Semporna, on the east coast of Borneo, I've met Bajau boys who compression dive for pearls or to fish scarce skipjack into nets. They clamp their mouths over a green garden hose, then dive down through a strata of blue on dark blue, bubble-clad, sons and fathers and uncles, the pressure on their skinny frames so heavy they chance death. Laughter over a cigarette, a simple broth must do. The hose, it glows, chugs diesel-tainted breath from surface to poverty of light. The bends swell their joints to madness. Their hair, it sways, black as silt, as sable, each fibre so delicate it brushes the water but leaves no mark. They did not tell me if they heard any song. Thank you. This next song is based on a rap song that I did years and years ago, and it's a true story. I had an instrumental. I was trying to figure out what kind of story to write. I was very frustrated, and then just as I was falling asleep, I was doom scrolling on Facebook, and I read this story about a fisherman, and I just made it rhyme, and then this is it. The ocean in 1,000 pieces when the moon is bright. He was just waiting for a girl to walk into his life. Fate has got its mind made when you shoot the dice. He saw her walking in and drank his bourbon to the ice. He beckoned her to come close, look into her eyes. He saw himself reflected in him, swimming in the night. The room started spinning, moon glimmer supersized. He woke up on a fishing boat, drifting through the black tides. Before he knew it, he was working as a slave. 20-hour days in the reef like a heady maze, beaten every day by the captain of the sailboat, hauling in the nets as the white sun blazed. He was forever hungry. He wondered if he'd see his country again, saw things he'd never unsee. Once he saw a man whipped to death on the mast for disobedience, body eaten up by the sharks. No sleep, no dreams, just forever ache, just the desperation in his weathered face, just the bitter fruit of longing on his taste buds. 12 months later, he decided to escape. He said, "To the moon I'll pray, Lord give me faith, help me find my way. Tell my mother to wait, the voice of the sea says nothing is safe. To the moon I pray, Lord give me faith, help me find my way. Tell my people to wait, there's a million different ways you get tricked by fate." Yeah, his heart is in 1,000 pieces when the moon is bright. The captain scrutinized him close with a shooter's eye. He said, "You try to flee this boat, then know that you will die. We'll cut your throat and throw your battered body off the side." Our man turned his back, kept on hauling in the catch. thinking he could cut the captain up before he could react. But he lay in wait for the right occasion. Face was calm, but his mind was racing, feeling like his life was fading. Deeper the water he's navigating. Till one day they refueled on the coast. It was then that he knew that he'd have to make the most. So he lay down and he played ill with a fever that burned till they were close. He hit the captain in the face, leapt up over the stern, swam right onto the beach. It was tears of pain and happiness. Sleeping in an alley where the rat's nest and where the trash heaps and the rat's nest, begging on the street corner, living hand to mouth, till a fisherman took pity on him, let him in the house, gave a corner to sleep, water and rice. The family got him working on a trawler at night. A man flinched at it, but he had to earn his keep, 'cause they were poor as hell and it was better than the street. It's been 3 years since then and he's still with them, a member of the family but working for a pittance. He still thinks of home every day, just another victim of the billion-dollar fishing trade. He said, to the moon I pray, Lord give me faith, help me find my way. Tell my mother to wait, the voice of the sea says nothing is safe. To the moon I pray, Lord give me faith, help me find my way. Tell my people to wait, there's a million different ways you get tricked by fate. Thank you. Do this one about my grandmother, who's still around. She's a real survivor. She's been through a lot. She was one of the first poets I knew. She comes from a tribe of women, a tribe called the Danon, which is on the border of Brunei, Indonesia and Malaysia. And the Danon women are very famous for poetry. And so she never learned how to read or write, but she has over 50 poems in her head that she composed when she was living on the street and watching the fishing boats coming and going and everything. And so she gave my father a love of poetry. He was a poet, and then he gave it to me. And so this is dedicated to my grandma. A later me wouldn't have done it. Split the turtle egg open, splash it with ketchup mayonnaise, slurp it down raw, oily yolk and thick white, then reach into the purple plastic ice cream container for another. Makan, Omar, she said. It's a treat. When I lived on the street, these turtle eggs were like gold. We ate roast pigeon that night too, crunching bite-sized wings not 500 meters from where the death camp had been. A later me swims with the turtles and thinks them divinity incarnate, despairs how hunger makes men raid nests and barter shell for cigarettes and diesel. Thoughts you have underwater. Maybe I should say thoughts I have underwater. Two minor different words. There's always a reason for the way a person is. Turtles, they move like birds. They scull, they glide, they wing. Oh, how much freight can a soul bear? More than a poem, surely. Not nearly as much. Is a foul mouth hereditary from matriarch to grandson? Who the fuck knows? My mind, it chews thoughts like jellyfish. Hey, tell me, does telling your grandmother's story count as appropriation? No. Yes. Surely. A fish bomb heard underwater is a dull concussion like the banging of a gong, a car crash in space. A later me idolizes my grandmother, writes her into poems as a paragon of resilience and survival. A later me still sees her petty prejudices, her fire-starting, batu-api heart. There's always a reason, always. In mile 7, the swinging bulb, the ice cream container, the pigeon bones, the geckos saying chit-chap, chit-chap. Her hands were leathery as turtle eggshells, squeezing mine, squinting. Makan, Omar. These eggs will make you see in the dark and make you clever at having babies. Hasn't proved to be true yet. She's still tired. I'll do 2 more poems. Is it 2 more poems? Sure. Alright, it's another ocean one. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to do one. So the word for homeland in the Malay language is tanah air. Tanah meaning earth and air meaning water. And because it's an archipelago of thousands of islands, that interplay between people of the land and people of the water has been an important one. But alongside cross-pollination of ideas and trade, there's been lots of warfare, especially in a place like Borneo. And within my own bloodline, I contain tribes of the water and tribes of the land. And so I wrote this poem based on that idea and based on that word. And so when I say inhale, if you feel like inhaling, you can do that. And exhale, a bit of a meditative one. But yeah, it goes like this. Inhale, exhale. Aku tanah air. I am a homeland, weighted to the ocean floor by a moral conundrum. On the waking edge between forested life and limitless sleep, sand is scalloped like an ear. It hears, listens, fizzes, rustles. Hold breath like confession, sayang, now let it go in rhythm. Inhale, I am singular. Exhale, I appear in many places. South, southwest, the pirate winds go through my slatted bones, bind me in smoke. Romanticism fattens and bloats around the liver. Realpolitik and electroshock to the heart. Coins sink upwards out of my pores and stories are engraved in my blood. There are durian husks and potato skins on these shores. Inhale, I am yearning. Exhale, I am inconsequence. I hear them call me an illegitimate kingdom. Fake Muslim, snake oil trade port, banana republic, middle class mirage, an empty plot where the rivers commingle, orchids and torch ginger, my garlands have started to rot. The plastic fish mounted on the wall is singing its last poorly penned jingle. Inhale, I am fraud. Exhale, I am truth. North, northeast, I am a land of disorder. My existence, resistance against admin and trade companies, cannons and capital. Colonizers fuck me with mechanical dicks to extract my hidden glint. Drill down into my flesh and there lie the oil wells that will set the forest aflame. Inhale, I am anger. Exhale, I am acceptance. At times I am glacial peak and polar ice cap, but hard shards, sharp from chiseling, melt and become the rising tide. The eagle's swoop swells to tempest, typhoon, cyclonic midnight marauder. There never has been, never will be a force of nature like me, Omar bin Musa. The monsoonal flow state over the loose leaf, the Bruce Lee quote when he says, be like water. Inhale, I am cliche. Exhale, I am ambiguity. Impossible to bear, it seems these days, but the words Tana and Air are combined in me. Land people, sea people, once warring factions, but now two parts combined into a necessary whole. But remember, the tide reverses, often, and I am no one. Hold up, I am no one thing. Inhale, exhale. Thank you so much for having
Wow, Omar, thank you so much. I remember you doing something similar back in NYU where you were reading from your novel from memory. It was just amazing. The performance quality is just fantastic. But brilliant work. And I really appreciate the vision of underwater and what happens with the mind when you're down there. I think it's singular. Everybody experiences it differently. I loved what you did. Thanks so much. Okay, so moving on, we have Beth Raymer. And Beth is the author of Lay the Favorite, a memoir about her years in Las Vegas and her work in the sports betting industry, Head of Household, a journal for single moms, and the current brilliant acclaimed novel Fireworks Every Night. She received an MFA from Columbia University and was awarded a Fulbright scholarship. Her journalism has been published in The Atlantic, the New York Times Magazine, and the New York Times. She lives in New York City, and we are so thrilled to bring Beth Raymer to our stage. Come on up, Beth.
It does it not matter? I just feel like I'm looking right at it.
Yeah.
I think you can bend
Or
the top
don't even,
part.
maybe don't even worry about it. Oh, thank you.
Lower it a bit.
Oh, perfect.
Am I right?
Yeah. I was just at the Miami Book Fair like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and this is much better. I met Tim. Tim got in touch with me because I wrote a piece, you know, in the weeks before a novel comes out at my publisher's Random House. You have all these marketing meetings, and they're like, is there anything can you do? Can you write something for the New York Times? Can you write an op-ed? Something kind of ties in with your book. And I was like, oh, yeah, I think I can do that. And I ended up writing a piece about my father taught me the benefits of delusion. That was the title. And it was about my father and his kind of, the way he raised me and his decision to become homeless when he was older. So it's kind of hard to think about. But it was a comedic piece. and you know, my dad did have this, you know, he made a huge impression on me, and I don't know if anyone's ever had to deal with a homeless parent, but it takes a lot out of you. So Tim got in touch with me after he read that. And the fun thing about writing for the New York Times is, yes, it helps sell books and you put it on your CV, but your reach is just unbelievable. You know, my editor, the next morning it runs, and my editor of the piece, Cornelia, she was brilliant because she didn't touch it. You know, that's what makes an editor really good sometimes. When they just said, it's going, you know, it's going in the paper. But what, you know, so you get all these letters from people all over the world who say, oh, you know, my parent did the same thing, or, you know, my parents didn't have enough money to keep the pool blue and it was green too, you know. So you just like connect with all of these people. And Tim got in touch with me. He said, I read your piece. I really enjoyed it so much. Can you come read? And so that's why I'm here. But one thing I think to like set up, it's hard to set up this novel. I find it difficult. But one thing that kind of motivated me to write this book was thinking about, how did my family implode? Why is it that my dad's homeless? Why is it that my sister's homeless? We used to have like a really, you know, intact family. So I would sit around and think about it, and I was like, wow, you know, it took me a very long time to put it all together. And one thing that was very, very helpful to me was that my father, when I was growing up, he tapped our phone lines. He thought that my mom was cheating on him. He was right. And this was the beginning of Fireworks Every Night. And so that was like when I was, I don't know, a senior in high school. But he wanted me to listen to the tapes when I was like 18. And I was like, oh, God, no. You know, definitely not. And then it was many years later, I was like 33 years old. I had written my first book. My dad's house was in foreclosure. I was helping him, or I was doing all the packing. He was just depressed in bed. And I'm almost done with like everything, and there's this huge white box on the top of his closet. And it's like really high, and it's really heavy, and I'm like, Dad, you know, what is in that box? Do we need it? What is it? And he's like, it's the tapes. And I was like, wow, really? And by this time I'm a writer, and I'm like, hell yes, I'm going to listen to those. So I climb up, get them down, fly back to New York City. I got a fellowship at McDowell, so for like, whatever it was, 9 weeks, I'm in my little studio in New Hampshire. I transcribed it. And it was very helpful in helping me not just put it together psychologically, but also, you know, shaping the novel. This is a novel. But, you know, like most writers do, a lot of it is true. God, did I just talk a lot or what? I just went through like every emotion like on the spectrum. Hold on, I'm trying to sip of wine. So, I think the part I'm going to read, I never read this part either, but this is kind of like, it's not really the climax, but it's getting there. Basically, at this point, the main character, Cece, is 17, and the parents' divorce, it's getting very, very intense. The betrayal has happened. The mom has moved into her room with her, even though there's also like mini betrayals everywhere. And what happens? The dad has cut off the credit cards. You know, the mom is a housewife. She is like truly helpless. He's stealing the food. Like, it's just like so bad all around. And the mom starts kind of really spiraling, and she takes one of his guns. And, you know, she's just basically, this is where she just starts kind of walking around the house with it. So, this is that. This is a very Florida novel, so some very Florida things are going to happen in here right now. Just a heads up. Mom rarely left my room, and when she did, she brought the shotgun. She'd hold it with both hands, muzzle up, and set it on the kitchen counter to get a glass of water or atop the dryer to do a load of whites. Dad thought it was funny. She'd turn the corner and he'd chuckle and say, "Here comes Omar Fudd." I was terrified the thing would go off, on purpose or accidentally. Every time the ice maker rattled, I jumped. I begged her to give me the gun. She shook her head. "I want to kill your father. I just don't have the nerve. Yet." She destroyed his belongings. Yellow sunlight shot through the drizzle, and Dad's pants, socks, and swimming trunks hung from wet trees. Using the end of the pool skimmer, he lifted a pair of Fruit of the Looms that were snagged on bark. Mosquitoes buzzed around our heads. "You're doing it," he said. "No, I'm not." "Get your shoes on, we're going to the courthouse." "I'm not going." "There's people who can help her, Pumpkin." In Florida, if a close friend or family member can convince a judge that a loved one is a danger to herself or others, that person is taken to a psych ward for an evaluation. This involuntary psychiatric hold is called the Baker Act, and it's sneaky. Everyone's in on it except for the one being committed. If Dad had Mom Baker acted, she'd be sent to the 45th Street Mental Health Center. It was in a rough part of town. Mentally ill drug addicts. That's who she'd be watching Good Morning America with. Mom would not be able to endure locked rooms and strip searches, and Dad knew it. But without my assistance, he was helpless. He couldn't Baker Act Mom on his own. He said the court required sworn testimony from 2 people. "You're doing it," Dad said, this time raising his voice. "Your mother is not in her right mind." "Either are you," I said. Yes, Mom seemed crazy. I was afraid of her and for her. I was also afraid for my father, which was confusing for me because in my mind, his revenge and control tactics had driven Mom to this point. He was the one that posed the biggest threat to our household, not the gun. And if he kept pushing, Mom would kill herself or us or everybody. So, to me, Mom didn't need a mental institution. She needed the means to get away from Dad. A 1-bedroom apartment she could afford and $1,000 a month in alimony. That would put an end to her suffering. "I've given you everything," Dad said. "Easy come, easy go. Right, kid? Later in the kitchen, he called the Baker Act hotline. Waiting to get through to a counselor, he put the phone on speaker and made himself a Jack and Coke. Please stay on the line. You have reached crisis services of the Palm Beaches. If someone you love is out of control... I was taking a side and it wasn't his. I knew that's why he was mad at me. But I suddenly felt conflicted about not doing it. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe Mom really did need doctors. Dad, can we just talk about this? Forget it. No, I feel bad. I said forget it. Sorry I even asked. I'll take care of it. Dad called Mom's friends. One by one, voice steady, low, peppered with the slightest hint of desperation, he gave his pitch. I'm worried to death about Mary Kay. I have guns missing. I'm losing her. She's going to kill herself. None of us will ever see her again. I'm probably going about this totally the wrong way, but I don't know where else to turn. I need someone to help me get my wife psychiatric help. If I could just sit down with you girls. They said, of course. They'd help in any way they could. Dad reserved a conference room at the Howard Johnson on Okeechobee Boulevard. On the morning of the intervention, as he called it, Dad got dressed up. Pressed pants, crisp white polo. I jumped into the pool and swam. I didn't know if he was expecting me to come with him or not, and I didn't know what I was going to say if he asked me to. When it came to strategizing against my father, I found it impossible to have any kind of plan. He was a master manipulator. There was no outsmarting him, exposing him, reasoning with him. There wasn't any protecting myself from him. All I could do was observe. Through the sliding glass doors, I watched him cut a fresh lime, then pour a gin and tonic into a 32-ounce styrofoam cup. He checked his watch against the microwave clock and slipped out the laundry room door. That evening, he called. You got somewhere to go? I'd get out of there if I were you. A part of me thought Dad was bluffing. It felt like an experiment, a way for him to see how I behaved under pressure. But what would bluffing get him at this point? Guidance for his next move, I thought. A bigger part of me felt that Dad's intervention had worked. He talked one of Mom's friends into going with him to the courthouse. Now people were coming to take Mom away. I sneaked a beer, the only thing in the fridge, and sat on the couch with MTV on mute so I'd be sure to hear the sirens. An ambulance, a gurney, Mom strapped to it. That's what I imagined was about to happen. In the evening, I kept checking on Mom. I listened at the door, considered knocking, and then went back to the couch. At some point, Mom went to bed. Under my bedroom door, I saw only a strip of black. Throughout the night, I woke up in fits. I believed I was being triggered by intuition. They're preparing the ambulance. The ambulance left the hospital. The ambulance is turning the corner. It was 1:30 midnight. It was 2:45. At 5, I heard men laughing. I jumped from the couch and looked out the window. Construction workers walked their work site. Panic kicked in. I tried the door. It was unlocked. The blue haze of dawn seeped through the blinds. Mom, I whispered. She didn't move. The shotgun lay alongside her. Fearing it would go off, I sat on the bed as lightly as I could. Mom, I whispered louder. Do you want to get breakfast? I'm not going to breakfast. I think we should go. Come get breakfast with me. Let's go to Denny's, I said. Oh no, I ain't going there. That place is shitty. Get dressed, sit up. To get her going, I gave her shoulder a little nudge. Don't you be pushing me, she said. She smiled. She thought I was being nice. I felt like I was tricking a child. The doorbell rang. I thought I was going to have a heart attack. Mom shot up and looked at the clock. Who the hell is this now? She said. What was happening was on the tip of my tongue. Say it. But I feared her reaction would be irrational. If I told her to hide in the closet, she wouldn't just hide in the closet. She would shoot herself. She peeked out through the blinds. Cops. She threw on a robe. How much you want to bet your father's in the slammer? She walked down the hallway. I pulled the sheet over the gun, picked up Snickers, our cat, and listened. I heard the crackle of walkie-talkies. Miss Burkowski? Sergeant Fulton. This is Sergeant Maxwell. You have time for a few questions? And I'll just stop there.
Just another family story from Florida. What a great hook, man.
That was
Yeah.
Dig in. Thank you so much, Beth. That was fantastic. And even the preamble, wonderful.
Thank
Wonderful. Highly spirited, and it really set the tone. So now we have an opportunity to ask some questions of these wonderful writers. So I'd ask each of them to come forward. We'll put some chairs up here. And we'll just spend 10, 15 minutes. And, you know, often that's me and Beetle asking questions. I would love to have the audience ask whatever to whomever. So let's get them up here.
And actually, Omar, would it be possible, because I just want to make sure that you guys are on the...
Oh, we have to scoot closer. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, can you, sorry guys, I just have to
Just
move this
setting up
back.
the tech.
Yeah, this is the thing with this. I wish there was a way to like...
Maxim, can you lower this for Deedle?
Oh yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, great.
That's good.
Yeah, thanks so much.
All right, well, that was such a fantastic reading, and I want to stay in the zone, but I'd love to hear from the audience. Does anybody have a question they'd like to ask Omar or Beth or Ruth, or all three? Great. Can you ask and I'll repeat it?
Omar, I want to find out about your woodcut practice and how that got started and how you combine that with your poetry and your beautiful book.
Repeat it?
So the question was, how did Omar get involved with his woodcut practice? What is the woodcut practice, and how does it connect to the making of the book?
For sure, yeah, thank you. A few years ago, probably about 5 years ago, I was back in Borneo. I was having a bit of a dark night of the soul, where I got to this point that I think everyone gets to, where you hate the thing that you're supposed to love. You know, I hated writing, I hated performing, and it was a very confronting thing because I'd always defined myself by those things, and I'd been touring for years and years. And so I took this crazy journey into the heart of the island by public ferry, just sleeping on the deck of the boat, going hitchhiking into the jungle if I heard there was a longhouse in there. And I kind of came to this realization that I needed a new form with which to express myself. I saw a lot of beautiful wood carving in the heart of the jungle, kind of spirits, animal spirits and whatnot, carved into the beams of the ancient longhouses. And I thought it was incredibly beautiful, but it didn't seem like something that was accessible to me. But then maybe, it was only about 2 weeks later, I crossed back from Indonesian Borneo to Malaysian Borneo to visit my father. And there was this collective of punk rockers and environmental activists who make these large-scale woodcut prints to criticise government corruption, also to raise funds to give villages without electricity by selling the artworks. And so I asked this guy, there was this local guy from my dad's hometown, called Eric Lost Control, this punk rocker. That's not his government. It's not his government name. But if you could teach me how to carve the wood, I've never been a printmaker or anything like that, and so we just sat down and we were smoking cigarettes, and he taught me how to carve the words backwards, and so I just became obsessed with this form. But it felt like too much of a leap to go immediately into just the visual arts. So I always included some poems or a couplet. Seemingly simple couplets. Oftentimes I tried to aim for something that was a simple rhyme but had a lot of depth to it, which was my take on that kind of activist style, because they would often use jingos and slogans, but it felt a little bit false for me to do something like that because I'm not an activist. I'm not on the sort of front line. So I'd often use family stories and poetry to talk about similar issues: palm oil corruption, the disappearance of the forest, the pollution of the reefs, all that sort of thing, but do it in my own style. And so, yeah, a few years later, I got to this point where I wanted to celebrate that journey, which had really brought me back mental health-wise, spiritually, and also in terms of my practice. And so I put this book together called Killanova that has all of the woodcuts and sort of scraps, tidbits of history, poems, little narrative poems. So yeah, it's been a crazy journey, an amazing one. It sort of brought me back.
Thank you.
And is that from the book on the T-shirt?
Oh yeah. This is I'm wearing my own merch. You know, I write books. I make chili sauce. I make woodcuts. I moved to New York City to be with a girl, and so I've been living in Brooklyn. And most of my artworks before that have been very Australian, very Bornean as well. And now I'm starting to, this is me on the subway holding up my silver balloon saying, yay! And so I'm starting to do a whole suite of Brooklyn inspired ones. So if anyone wants one of these t-shirts, you know what I mean? It's got something to say at the back.
Who else?
I have one for all. I was just wondering if, I guess in particular for Omar and Ruth, when you write poems, do you sometimes find yourself like walking and writing the poem in your head and then going home and writing it? I guess I'm asking about process, but also for you, Beth, whether that might be true as well for fiction, or is it more like ideas? Oh yeah, I gotta put that down and then work on it later, so I guess process, Ruth?
Thank you, Dino, for that question. I never know what I'm going to write.
Yeah.
I never know what I'm going to do. I get a bit of language or something gets me going, and I just try to follow wherever it's going to take me. And certainly in putting this book together, I didn't even know I had a book. And I really believe in not being alone as a writer. So I worked with an editor, and I gave this mess to an editor and said, is there anything here? And he was able to tell me a little bit about what was going on in this material. And then I was able to put the book together, and then I understood that I had something. But I'm always writing my way into the unknown. I never know where I'm going to go.
I guess I'm similar. I mean, I don't think a lot, I think is my problem. It's very, it's almost like I wake up, I take my son to school, I come home, I light my little candles, and it's almost like a seance that I hold in a way, and I let whatever come to me, and it is usually language or a snip of dialogue or something, once in a while something very dramatic will come, and I'll be like, wow, should I start the chapter there or end the chapter there? And then I start kind of just, going from there. I try to come up with a scene, but yeah, I don't have anything pre-planned. For nonfiction, you kind of do, because you have to sell a book on proposal, and so you do need to think. But with novels, you can be very, very open, which is why I think they take so long.
Yeah, I never know where I'm going either. I sort of fly by the seat of my pants. I'm a little bit jealous of these authors you hear. I was listening to this interview with Orhan Pamuk talking about writing a novel, and he's like, oh, I know exactly where it's going to go right from the start. Every chapter I've sort of got it plotted out, and then all I have to do is sort of fill it in, And I'm like, God, I wish I was like that. Sounds way less painful than the way I do it. Yeah, it depends, because I don't know where it's going to spring from either. Oftentimes it'll be a scrap of conversation I hear on the train, sometimes a news headline, but oftentimes it's an image that appears in my head like a vision, and so it's probably not very strange that I have eventually moved into the visual arts. But I try to reverse engineer that image into words. So even my novel that he was alluding to, Here Come the Dogs, it started with just this vision I'd had about a young man in front of a wall of flame, and I started asking questions about this young man, what his name was, what type of music he liked, what were his family dynamics, and then slowly a world started to form, and then a story. And so you kind of follow it like, you know, the thread through the labyrinth kind of thing, and see what's on the other side. So yeah, it's all in the dark.
Wow, that's amazing.
Someone else, please,
Say
Stevie.
that I actually can relate to all three because, you know, also being a songwriter, and then I pick up my bass at 2 o'clock in the morning. So I remember I was writing this song and it started so well. But then I was like, you know what? I'm going to go backwards. I started the poem, where do you see yourself in 10 years from now? So what happened, I started writing adventures from there and back. Like, what do I think I'm going to be doing in 10 years? So I can relate to like all your stories where you don't know where you're going to go. And then it just kind of happens. Sometimes you got to start somewhere. Like I even start thinking about the seasons, like now, and since I also paint, I think about the blues. No blues, actually blueberries, but the browns, but the browns and the tans, and which is it's so warm, those colors, and I find that it's so beautiful, these colors, that I can easily write. For some reason, I find it easier to write in the fall than like in the summer. You know, I don't know how you feel, but I just want to say I really am so inspired by all three of you, and I love Ruth's book because I actually had no heat. So when I see my landlord, I'm going to say, "You want this for Christmas?" But this was a really beautiful, beautiful reading. I thank you so very much.
Thank you. That might be a perfect note to end on. What do you think?
Could I ask one more question?
Please.
I have one question. I loved all of your work, but Omar, I'm really interested in your grandmother. Have you memorized any of her poems? Would you mind just?
No, I don't, because they're oftentimes in this kind of like slangy dialect, and my Malay's not. Oh, well, Malay's okay, but it sort of almost becomes a different language when it goes into poetry. But also the Malay pantuans, the sort of the style of it it's a bit tricky, because oftentimes the first 2 lines don't sort of like. The end of it seems to have no relation to the beginning of it, and I think that's a stylistic thing. And it's kind of it's one that I don't fully get yet. And it's I've got a whole thing actually in the book where I talk about like trying to compose a pantun, and I never was able to write one. And then last year, actually here's a cool story about my grandma. Last year, because she's about 9, well, she doesn't know how old she is, but she's, let's say, like 94. You know, people of that era and that place didn't oftentimes have like a birth certificate and everything, and so we would, you know, got to this point of the meal where everyone started making poems to a beat. Everyone was clapping, and then they threw it to me, and I felt so embarrassed because I'm supposed to be a poet, you know, but I was able to make one up to the beat because it's not meant to be written, it's meant to be spoken. And I realised, that's been my problem all these years. And so at my book launch, when I finally launched this book with all the punk rockers and the activists to celebrate this journey, my grandma, I put her on all the flyers that the guest of honour would be my nenek, my grandma. And so she finally came in, and then at the end, so they were all like tattoo artists, punk rockers and everything, and then my family with the hijabs and stuff, and then at the end she started mumbling something, and everyone goes, "What's that?" And everyone gathered around her like around a rap cipher or something, and she started composing poems, and then my grandfather was bouncing them back off her as well. And it was just the coolest thing ever.
Cool.
So yeah, I need to memorize some for sure.
Just one,
still
please.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Amazing.
Please.
I got one more. So I'm a huge Beth Raymer fan. In fact, I've known her since elementary school. I've known her dad, know her mom. I've seen her do presentations in middle school, and they're pretty much the same way. So if you have any questions about her, you can ask me. I do have a question. So her first book was turned into a movie. Bruce Willis was in it. Rebecca Hall played her. Beth Raymer. So for this book, is there like a strategy to like get this a movie as well? Is there anything behind that? I'm curious.
I still want the film rights, so I don't know you know, when you sell the film rights, you don't know what will happen, but Jude Law's production company bought it, so we'll see. It would be helpful to me if something happened.
Oh, yes.
Will you talk about what Rebecca Hall going method and being you? Rebecca Hall like went method and played like the Bethiest stuff you've ever seen.
Wow.
What's the title of the movie?
It's called Lay the Favorite, and they and so Rebecca Hall, who's a British actress, played me. So it was very interesting to watch this. You know, 5'10", Shakespearean trained. Her father is Sir Peter Hall. You know, the major theater in London, and she really wanted to play the part of me. This is when I was like gambling and stripping in Las Vegas. You know, so I was like, I want that role, and she got it. A lot of actresses wanted it. It was like amazing. I've been around many actors in my life, but to watch Rebecca, you know, transform, and yes, she was very method. She did everything. I mean, she came to my house, got my clothes, got them made to fit her, did everything, the hair twirl, all the annoying things I do in my life all day long. She did them. And the movie didn't do so well. I'm sorry. But it was an amazing experience.
Wow.
Who would you cast as your dad?
Oh, gosh. I mean, someone played my dad even in Lay the Favorite, Corbin Burnson. He had a very small role. I mean, Woody Harrelson is too old for this book. My dad's like in his 40s in this book. So, I don't know. Whoever like the modern day Nick Nolte is. Something like that. I don't even know if men like that exist anymore. Like, seems like a tall order. Is there a modern day Nick Nolte? I don't know. You know, someone who's blonde, good looking, but, you know, he has a malice going on.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll close out in this other way, you know, with Asia Pacific Writers and Translators, which we do some work with, and with New York Writers Workshop. We co-host a series of readings called ISO Break. These were begun in the beginning of the pandemic in order to keep the kind of global community connected. And Ravi Shankar, our friend, the poet, was the curator and the host most of the time. And Ravi had a way of closing out that I think is really good, so I'm going to offer it to you guys. It's actually two-part. One is tell us what you're going to be doing next, where you're going to be appearing anywhere, readings, book signings, things like that. But also, is there anything on the horizon or in the immediate that makes you a bit hopeful and that you'd like to share with the room? Something to leave us on a note of holiday cheer.
Oh, my next book has to do with my high school friend getting, she was up against the death penalty when we were seniors in high school. So that is a real hopeful note for moving forward into 2024 and doing something wrong in a state that has the death penalty, like the state of Florida, which is kind of like what my book explores, even when you're 18 years old, and what it's like to be an 18-year-old girl, up against the death penalty.
Is the good news that she's still here?
She's still alive, but she's serving life in prison. So, we'll see with DeSantis. I mean, we talk on the phone a lot. She always talks about Ron. Or she calls Ron.
I've got a show on Sunday at Three's Brewery in
Much better.
Gowanus. That's not the positive thing. If you want to come, it's at 7 till 9. At Three's Brewery. I'm going to be performing poetry. My partner's going to be playing cello. We're going to have some stand-up comedy. It's going to be great. The positive thing, maybe ocean-related, reef-related. So a lot of the poems that I wrote were about this one particular island called Pom Pom Island. It's off the east coast of Borneo. You can literally, if you go out on the boat, you can touch the waters of the Philippines as well. And fish bombing is like a serious problem over there because a lot of poor people have no recourse, and so they do that kind of diving for shell and bombing the reef. The reef was bombed to 0% coral. But I went out there with an organisation that is at the forefront of kind of trying to do like 3D printing and different types of rebuilding the structural integrity of the reef. Sometimes planting these kind of concrete blocks so that the reef can grow over it and everything. And actually, their efforts combined with the pandemic meant that when they came back, turtles had started nesting in the reef, which had regrown in just that short period of time. Turtles came back for the first time in 20 years, and the reef was beginning to breathe again. So that was like this kind of tiny ray of hope in amongst all of the mayhem and madness, but that I could see a massive change from the first time I went there to the last time. So there's a real fantastic.
Nice.
Well, I don't feel terribly hopeful these days, I must say. In my own work and life, I think the thing that gives me the most hope is teaching. And I continue to do that, even though I keep saying I'm going to stop, and I never stop. I never stop because it is the most hopeful thing that I do. In terms of my work, this is the last of a little flurry of readings that I'm doing, and then there'll be another flurry in the new year, in March, in February and March. I'll be going out west to pitch the book, sell the book. And in terms of my own work, I'm going to blunder my way into whatever else comes next. But I'm also trying desperately to finish a memoir that I've been working on for more time than is conscionable.
How much time?
Please don't ask. Don't ask. But I am going to finish it, and I am going to get it out in the world, and that is helpful for me in my own personal work. About the world, I can say nothing good. It's just awful. It's just awful. It's as though humanity has forgotten its humanness in some ways. I'm very, excited to hear about all this ocean and stuff because it does cheer me up. And I like to know that there are other parts of the world than where I live. And where I live is not cheering me up. But it's wonderful to be here, and I'm really grateful to be here, and it's wonderful to read with both of you. And I thank Tim, and I thank all of you, and I thank Max for turning up the heat.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. The Q&A was just as scintillating as the reading. Thank you all for coming, for your questions, and for your spirit. As I say, New York Writers Workshop will take a break. We'll be back here, I think, at the end of February for 3 Saturdays, the 3 last Saturdays, February, March, April. What we have on the docket is a trip to Kathmandu in the end of May, early June. We're just finalizing some details now for accommodations and workshop space. If you continue to check in on the website, you'll see something up there with definitive locations and costs and so forth very, very soon. Hope to see you all in the new year. Have great holidays. Thank you so much for coming. You guys, brilliant work, fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you. There's plenty of drink and eat in the back and plenty of merchandise to buy. Please, help yourselves.
I want him to sign my book.
Me and Max. What? Oh, good. Okay.
There's going to be no red carpet rolled out. You have to go and just grind away at the community and learning a language. So I just sort of, you know, it just sort of happened. It's a small thing, but it's really exciting.
Thank you.
Just to make it happen.
There it is. Look how beautiful it is.
Oh,
I
it's
think it's such a pretty cover.
Right.
I like it.
Well, no, see, this is the thing. I've tried to represent. It's a real place, and it's connected to the world. It's punk rock.
Did you enjoy that? It was so
Yeah, you know, that's
inspiring. Yes, I enjoyed it immensely.
Oh, definitely. It's a really
I think that might be, I used to love it.
all right. So I see myself on.
Feel free to pet Mr. Max.
Oh, so there you go. Oh,
What else?
Okay. Thank you. This is fantastic.
yeah, and it's from poetry.
Omar, do you have more books?
I've only got 3. Those are the last 3.
Oh, Dee Delicious.
Yes, well, that was years ago.
I love it.
That was years ago. Now it's shipping. Now it's
Oh, okay. Thank you. Are you sure?
This is actually called Bay Root. Like Bay Ridge, Bay Root.
I was going to say, yeah, because there's a lot of, like,
Fifth Avenue is all
Okay, how much? Okay.
Who do we buy the books from?
Oh, that's a good picture. Okay, send it to me.
okay. Yeah.
I'm gonna call you right now.
Mr. Max.
Max, you can say Max.
Wow, I can't believe it.
He did so good during the performance, right? He's the best. He's really the best.
Well, it's better than my sister's dog, that's for sure. But you know, my sister's
I
dog
do take him everywhere.
Oh. See, that's the thing. She's cooped up at home.
He's pretty cooped up at home. He's pretty cooped up at home. The only place I can't bring him is work. No matter what, quite a lot. Is perfect. He knows a lot of words. He does know a lot of words.
My sister's dog does this funny thing. So they gave him a little satin pillow, and the dog will go up to it and literally lay her head down like a person, like a human being. It's so odd.
Maxie, boo-boo. Sit, Maxie, boo-boo, sit.
But
Maxie,
Maxie
sit.
doesn't have like the overbite or whatever.
I don't know if he has an underbite.
Yeah, which is actually better for me.
Good boy, Maxie.
Oh, I didn't stop this. Uh-oh.